A model upon you, Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Blessing of the Sabbath. Barakatah Yahweh. Ba'ashem Yahushai. Asherah. Bethelanawa. Ashabath. Ba'shalawam. Thawada. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, or the Most High, in the name of Christ, that gives to us the Sabbath and peace. Thank you, so be it. Faha'ayim A'ad Asherayim Akkad, Psalm 121. Anya Harayim Ayanyam Ya Oh Harayim Ma'ayan Yabawa'a Isaiah Yabawa'a Mayahawa Shaisha Shamayim Wa'arataza La'a Yanathan Lamawat Regalia Yala'a Yanawum Shashamarka, Hana, La'a, Yanawum, Wala'a, Yayashun, Shashuma, Yasharala, Yahweh, Shamaya, Yahweh, Tazalia, Ayam, Ya, Yim, Ya, Yawamum, Hashamash, La'a, Hakaya, Wayarak, La'a, Balayala, Yahweh, Yashamaria, Makal, Ra, Yashama, Napasha, Yahweh, Yashama, Hawalakian, Wahawaya, Ma'aitha, I will Basham, Yahabasha, Thawada, Amen.
Psalms 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help coming from the Lord which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Shema Yasharallah, Hail Israel. Shema Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Akkad, Shema Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Akkad, Shema Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Akkad.
Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Amen.
Amen. Tapala Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer. Abiyanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Chaya, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwatka, Saba'ah, Batazawanka, Haya, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Ka, Bashemayim, Methalanawa, Lakam, Yawum, Za, Wasalaklanawa, Kabawathnawa, Kasalaknawa, Kabawathanawa, Habayana, O Nasayawan, Abo, Awashinawa, Marah, Kaya, Lakan, Hamalakwa, Wa'ala, Watha Pa'arath, La'aywalam, Amen.
Matthew 6:9. After this manner, therefore, pray, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Amen. Ha'aisha Ramatazawaf, the Ten Commandments. La'a, Yahaya, Laka, Alahayim, Akarim, Alpanya, La'a, Thaisha, Laka, Pasol, Wala'a, Thaibadam, La'a, Thalakwaka, Shamwa, Yahweh, Alahayaka, Lashua, Zakar, Ath, Hayawam, Hashabath, Lakodashwa, Kabad, Abiakar, Wa Amakar, La'ah, Daratazak, La'ah, Dana'ah, La'ah, Daganah, La'ah, Dainah, Shakur, La'ah, Dakamad, Ko, Asherah, Lara'ayaka, Aman.
Exodus 20:2. I am the Lord thy God, which I brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or in the likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visit the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Shabbat, be seated. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathan Lanawa, Par Yahagapin, Thawada Amun, La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ath Yasha Allah. Hey, might I point you on Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Barakatha Yahweh, Hagadol, Rakawam, Abiyah, Wanaba'ah, Aliyawan, Malak, Sho, Shemayim, Wa'aratazah, Wako, Debarium, Kayayam, Wagum, Hamashiach, Mayahawa, Adawanawa, Ahabnawa, Hapalah, Yawaitazah, Yahushai, Zakar Nawa, Yahweh, Barataza 1, Imka, Yasha Allah, Izar Nawa, Banah, Wasap, Yasha Allah, O, Nanawa, Yum Yun, Aitha, Kayawamyam, Makodum, Baba Kusha, Shalat, Mayaka Allah, Wataz Wadat, Alahayim, La, Magunnawa, Rapanawa, Washamar, Alnawa, Ba'akwar, Shalat, Harokan, Shon, Yahweh Shai, Lanawa, Lalamanawa, Rabim, Kakama, Sabawana, Wada'ith, Shon, Dabarka, Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai, Fawada, from Yad, Wa'iwalam, Amen. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth, and all things living. And also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably, your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel. Most high, we beg you, right now, like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh, thank you always and forever. So be it. Hebrew only. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh that gives to us the law. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Ethelanawa, Hathawara. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh that gives to us light to see. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Ethelanawa, War, Lara Awath. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh that gives us the rams on the call of people. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Ethelanawa, Korun, Ha'ayol, La Korah, Ha'aim. Blessed are Yahweh in the name of Yahweh that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Ethelanawa, Hashemun, Zayath, Lamashak, Yasha'Allah. Shabbat be seated. Kick off the smoke detector. All right. Shalom, Yasha'Allah. Peace and blessings to the brothers and sisters that's watching on the live stream, those who are listening on the teleconference line. Happy Sabbath or Shah Shabbat in the Hebrew. This is Hayasharallah Kanas, Congregation of Israel in Hebrew, located here on Germantown Avenue in Philadelphia, PA, where we teach the law, statutes, and commandments found throughout the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, also the hidden books known also as the Apocrypha, which is found in the original 1611 King James Version Bibles, where we teach the mystery of the Most High, which is his chosen people, those whose ancestors on their father's side, going back at a minimum of 3 and 4th generations, who participated or who was involved in the transatlantic and the sub-Saharan slave trade that went to the Americas, North, South, Central America, as well as throughout the Middle East, throughout Europe, throughout the United Kingdom, and still spread throughout Africa, right? Those who on their father's side, known as the Negroes, so-called blacks, represents a portion of the 12 lost tribes of the nation of Israel, as well as those whose ancestors known as the Hispanics, the Native American Indians, Seminole Indians, who are also scattered throughout the 4 corners of the earth, also make up a portion of the 12 lost tribes of the nation of Israel, which together make up the Most High's chosen nation of people that the Lord is sending his son Jesus Christ, known in the Hebrew as Yahushua, to come and redeem us in these last days. But prior to that, the Most High is sealing the servants with the knowledge of his wisdom, as it talks about in Revelations, the 7th chapter, to understand the dietary laws, ceremonial laws, moral and civil laws, to be able to develop the fruits of the spirit in order to sustain yourself in these last days. At the same time, we're learning about our history. We're learning about archaeology, different places and things geographically. We're learning about prophecy. All of these things are happening in the last days that the Most High is now having us to be aware of as we try to make it through day by day. All right. So that's a little quick background, as we usually do on a Sabbath day, but we're going to jump right in. It's a beautiful day out today. I know Priest Yahweh Kanan here is itching to get out the camp today. So I'm going to try to go through the scriptures today, the book of Joshua, the chapters 9 and 10. Going to go through it expeditiously, but always judiciously. All right. So we're going to first start off in Joshua chapter 9 and verse 1. Joshua chapter 9, verse 1. All right, so this is Joshua chapter 9, verse 1. Now, leading up to this, the Most High was leading Joshua from the eastern part of what we know today as Israel to now going into the western portion of it on the other side of Jordan to go and conquer those Hamitic nations that was dwelling in our promised land. Remember, you can say that they were there already, but all the land is the Most High's, and he is the one that is now giving it into the hand of the children of Israel, led by our fearless leader and captain at the time, Joshua, right? Captain of the host of Israel, I should say. So this is Joshua chapter 9, verse 1. And it says, and it came to pass when all the kings which were on this side Jordan, in the hills and in the valleys, and in all the coasts of the great sea over against Lebanon, the Hittite and the Amorite and the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivite and the Jebusite heard thereof, right? So all of these different areas, these different kings, it spread about what the Most High now is doing by the hand of his people to go and conquer Jericho, go and conquer Ai and other kings. So now they're hearing of these things, right? But it also mentions here over against the great sea, over against Lebanon. So when you look in today's map and you see Israel, and when you see Lebanon, which is there, you want me to get the map so you can see it? Let me get my trusty, hopefully I brought it with me. Give me 1 second here. Yeah, I got it. Kanan jumped up, said, Samat, you got to put the map up. I got to see it. All right, give me 1 second. Make sure the volume's turned down all the way, the water. Yeah, all the way. All right, so let's see if this is one. Nope. I want to get today's version. Bear with me, Israel. I think this is one that I want. It's not good enough. It's not the one that I want.
They're gonna fight against us.
Say again?
They're gonna fight against us.
Yeah, let me just pull it up online here. I don't like this map that I got here. All right. All right. Bear with me. Give me 1 second. I want one that kind of gives me, these maps is not giving me the whole, kind of just giving me portions. All right, I'll do this one. Just so you can get a take on what I'm looking to see here. All right, so I think it's this one. Is you on the thing there? Is it coming up? All right, so are you on the right? It's in here. Maybe I gotta. Bear with me. I'm trying to get the schools thing here. No, it's not coming up. I'll get it in a second, y'all. Can I just give me a minute here? Yeah, it's not letting me, for some reason, share the screen, but I'll get it in a few. So when you look on the map here, and what we normally see or view as Israel. So you see all of this is modern day Israel. It's the West Bank, there's Jerusalem right here, and you see all of this. This is the Mediterranean Sea. So when it talks about over against the great sea of Lebanon, so right here, you'll see where it's sectioned off with these little red borders, right? And it's sectioned off based on where the Palestinians live and where Israel lives. Or where the Palestinians live, they call today occupation. They're living in occupation, right? This is where the land that they have been pushed, that they occupy. All of this over here to the west, where you see Tel Aviv and all these other different places, is where the Jewish people live, right? And if you look at this border, the border here goes in, following where my mouth is, and then right in here you see Jerusalem. So right in that little crevice where Jerusalem is where you have a mixture of different people. But to the west of that, that's where all the Jewish people live, and inside of here is where Ishmael and the rest of them live. Now to the top here is kind of cut off. Further up in the middle portion of this is Lebanon. That's where you have Beirut and areas like that. That's right now not a part of modern day Israel today, but that in the past was a part of Israel, right? That area up there by Lebanon was also given to the children of Israel. Now it's widely condensed, right? It's kind of shrunken to where what we have today based on land captivities, occupation, and different dividing up of the land based on different events that's happened throughout history, right? So this is what we're now looking at is here's the Dead Sea right here in the middle where that little body of water is. And then to the west of that is all this area now that Joshua and the men are going to go and conquer and occupy. All of these areas going all the way up to the northern portion of it is where all these kings now are hearing about the plights and the exploits of what Joshua and the children of Israel are doing under the hand of the Most High, right? So now, let's read this again. It says, and it came to pass when all the kings which were on this side Jordan, and in the hills and in the valleys, and in all the coasts of the great sea over against Lebanon, the Hittite and the Amorite, the Canaanite and the Perizzite, the Hivite and the Jebusite heard thereof, right? Go to Numbers real quick, the book of Numbers, chapter 34. Y'all, Kanan, if you could read that while I try to find another map here. Numbers 34 and 6.
Numbers 34, verse 6. And as for the western border, ye shall even have the great sea for a border. This shall be your west border.
Right. So here you see on the map that I have up now, it says even the great sea, right? So now here you kind of see the dividing up or the lots that the children of Israel had. And if you go up to the top where Manasseh and Naphtali are and Dan, you'll see right here it says Mount Lebanon. So all the way up here, portions of this is where our tribes also occupied, right? Over time, that now got divided up. But now you also see up here to the top Sidon. And then you also see right here in the middle is Tyre. So these are these Hamitic nations that are now dwelling in the land where the children of Israel are now going to go and conquer. So all the way, all this on this western border here of the Great Sea was now given to the children, or was promised to the children of Israel, right? Read that one more time.
Numbers 34, verse 6. And as for the western border, ye shall even have the great sea for a border. This shall be your west border.
Come going.
Verse 7. And this shall be your north border. From the great sea ye shall point out for you Mount Hor.
Right. So even going all the way to the north where Mount Hor is, that's where the children of Israel now occupied or were promised that portion of land. Read.
Verse 8. From Mount Hor ye shall point out your border unto the entrance of Hamath, and the goings forth of the border shall be to Zedad.
Right. So now when it comes to our inheritance, the Most High is very specific and detailed in describing what portion of the land would be from ours, from what area to the next area, what was now going to be promised to the children of Israel. And as you read down in Numbers 34, it gets very detailed to different cities and different mountains of region where the children of Israel would then occupy moving forward. All right. So that's what the Most High had promised Moses. And now Joshua is now about to exact on that. So let's go back to Joshua chapter 9 and verse 1, and then we'll move on. All right. So it says, and it came to pass when all the kings which were on this side, which is the west side, and the hills, side Jordan, in the hills and in the valleys, and in all the coasts of the great sea over against Lebanon, the Hittite and the Amorite, the Canaanite and the Perizzite, the Hivite and the Jebusite heard thereof, that they gathered themselves together to fight with Joshua and with Israel with one accord, right? So they didn't want to go and lay down. They said, listen, we're going to all come together and we're going to band up to go fight against the children of Israel, right? Because at that point, that time, they looked at that land as being their own. So they were going to stand up and fight for their land. Verse 3, and when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done unto Jericho and Ai, they did work willily and went in and made as it had been, they had been ambassadors, and took old sacks upon their asses and wine bottles, old and rent and bound up. So the Gibeonites, when they heard what was going on, and they were right, you know, when you look at the area as we read on, they was kind of close to us. When they heard what was going on, they said, listen, we're not going to go fight against them. We're going to be more subtle. We're going to come in with subtlety. That's what it talks about when it says wildly. They were subtle in order to now come to Joshua and then try to deceive or connive them into becoming a league with them. That's what this is now going to get into. So I'm going to read it again. They did work wildly and went and made as if they had been ambassadors. So these men now fronted as if they were ambassadors now going for their king, right? But they weren't really ambassadors. These was men that was just coming and put on different types of garments, put on old shoes, old sacks. So they didn't take new sacks of potato sacks or whatever it was to put things in, nice traveling bags. They took old ones, right? So they came looking as if they had nothing, right? That they were a people who were poor, like a third world country that was coming from afar off. Verse 5, and old shoes and clouded upon their feet and old garments upon them. And all the bread of their provision was dry and moldy. What comes to mind is like sometimes when you see rich people who have a lot of wealth, a lot of money, you may see them on different social medias, you see them at the awards, you see them in different places. But then when they got to go to court, they dress totally different, right? Because they want to appear as if they don't have anything, right? I saw one of these legendary, on one of boxes, he had to go to court because he didn't pay a judgment. So he was now fronting in front of the court as if he didn't have any money. He owed, like, I think about, I don't know if it was $50,000 or $500,000 to someone who he went and violated. But he appeared in court with old jeans, old sweater, right? And he said to the judge, I don't have no money, right? So now he was being subtle to the judge so that she would not, you know, try to take more money and put more fines on him. Right? That's kind of the mindset of what the Gibeonites is doing. They're trying to now front as if they're people who lack, and they're trying to come and offer the extended hand and say, listen, can you help us out, or can we be league with you? We don't want no beef with no problems with you. Right? So going back to now verse 5 again, and old shoes and clouded upon their feet and old garments upon them, and all the bread of their provision was dry and moldy. So even the food that they took with them on the journey, they took the worst food, right? One that looked all moldy and decrepit, so that when they come and present themselves, people looking at these are like, damn, man, they eating some old food. They ain't got no good food. They give them something to eat, man. Look at these guys. That's kind of what they wanted. They wanted the sympathy, right? Verse 6, and they went to Joshua unto the camp at Gilgal and said unto him and to the men of Israel, we be come from a far country. Now, therefore, make ye a league with us, right? So now they fronted as if they came in a far distance away from where they were at in Gilgal, where the soldiers was about to fight at, right? It says, and the men of Israel said unto the Hivites, peradventure ye dwell among us, and how shall we make a league with you, right? So now it says, well, hold on, what are you talking about? Y'all dwell amongst us. How are we supposed to make a league with you? Now, why is that important? Go to the book of Deuteronomy, the 20th chapter. Why is it important on where they are dwelling? Deuteronomy 20 and 10. Yahweh Kanan, if you could read that, Bible Shah.
Deuteronomy 20, verse 10. When thou comest nigh unto a city to fight against it, then proclaim peace unto it. Verse 11. And it shall be, if it make the answer of peace and open unto thee, then it shall be that all the people that is found therein shall be tributaries unto thee, and they shall serve thee.
Right. So when you're going to go to war, you can go and ask if they want to be tributaries unto you. They want to lay down their weapons or their swords, and now they want to be servants unto you. You can offer that option. Read.
Verse 12. And if it will make no peace with thee, but will make war against thee, then thou shalt besiege it.
Right. So it says, if it will make no peace with thee, but will make war against thee, meaning they don't want to accept what was now given to them as an option, right? Then it says, okay, fine. Then you're going to go and make war with it and besiege it. Read on.
And when the Lord thy God had delivered it into thine hands, thou shalt smite every male thereof with the edge of the sword.
Keep going.
But the woman and the little ones and the cattle and all that is in the city, even all the spoil thereof, shalt thou take unto thyself, and thou shalt eat the spoil of thine enemies, which the Lord thy God had given thee.
Right. So now when you go and you fight against this city that you offered up a peace offering as far as to them to be subjects unto you, and they choose not to, then you can go and fight against them. But you could have the spoils of war. You can take women to be your servants. You can take cattle. You can take certain things of this people that are far off. Keep reading.
Verse 15. Thus shalt thou do unto all the cities which are very far off from thee, which are not of the cities of these nations.
Right. It says, thus shall you do with the nations or the cities that's very far off from you. But the cities that's close to you, you shouldn't do that. Right. There's a difference. The ones that the Most High had given us their land, that offer was not supposed to be extended to them. Only the ones that were far off. Read.
Verse 16. But of the cities of these people, which the Lord thy God doth give thee for an inheritance.
So now the Jebusites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, all of those nations, the Lord said he was going to give their land for an inheritance. Read.
Thou shalt save alive nothing that breatheth.
Now you're not supposed to give them that extension. You're supposed to go and utterly destroy them. Nothing was supposed to be saved alive. The only ones from afar off, you can save certain things for your own spoils, but not with these nations. Read.
But thou shalt utterly destroy them, namely the Hittites and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites, the Hivites and the Jebusites, as the Lord thy God had commanded thee.
Right. So we're supposed to utterly destroy them. When you look at the scriptures, the Gibeonites were a people of the Amorites, right? So they were supposed to be utterly destroyed at the time they came to Joshua, right? Because the Most High is just telling us this right now. Why did the Most High want us to why was the purpose of utterly destroying all of these people? Read the next verse. It's going to tell you.
Verse 18. That they teach you not to do all after their abominations, which they have done unto their gods. So should ye sin against the Lord your God.
Right. So now if I give you, this is the Most High speaking, if I have now given you the land that they once dwelt in as an inheritance, and you save them alive, they're going to be a snare and a thorn unto you. Because now you're going to be sinful. You're going to now be privy to sin and following after their gods and the things that they do, their practices. You are now also going to be subjected to doing it. So to rid that sin, utterly destroy all of them out from those who dwell amongst you. Now, the ones who are very far off, that's different. You're not dwelling in their land, or they're not dwelling in you. They live in a very far off city. But the inheritance the Most High gave, those it had to be eradicated. Thus saith the Most High. This wasn't man's decision. This was the Most High's decision, right? So now let's go back. So you read from 10 all the way down to 18.
Is that related to Deuteronomy 7:1?
Read Deuteronomy 7:1.
Deuteronomy 7 verse 1. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and hath cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites and the Girgashites and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou.
Keep reading.
Verse 2. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them.
Do what?
And utterly destroy them.
So we're supposed to smite and utterly destroy those nations that was just mentioned in verse 1. Read.
Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them.
Right. So that was the commandment of the Most High. We was never supposed to make an agreement, a covenant, show mercy. They were supposed to be utterly destroyed. Thus saith the law. Just saith the Most High. So that definitely goes with that. And that has been the staple that the Most High have been continuing to drive into the children of Israel's mind. Right. So Deuteronomy 7:1-2 also goes with that. Con.
So these Jebusites, they came with subtlety. So they were supposed to have been destroyed just like those other people you were reading about.
Correct.
So the Lord seen this, so why did he allow them to make an agreement with these people? Why did he utterly destroy them?
Because what's the whole point of all of this that we're going through right now? Go to 1 Samuel to chapter 15. 1 Samuel chapter 15.
Okay. Wow.
Verse 20, chapter 15, verse, I think it's 22.
You want me to read?
Right.
All right. And Samuel said, as the Lord has great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices, as in obeying the voice of the Lord, behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of ram.
Meaning what?
Well, it's better to obey the voice of God than to offer him burnt offers and sacrifice.
Right. So the Most High's main objective is to have his people listen to his every word. The Most High can do everything. He can do anything, but it was about having the children of Israel listen and obey his commandment. It would have been too easy for the Most High to say, hold on, no, y'all shouldn't do what y'all about to do. I'm going to destroy them all. No, how is Israel going to learn? The Most High now is teaching Israel about obeying him, right? Sometimes a child has to learn the hard way. Israel, as a nation of children to the Lord, has to learn the errors of their decisions. So the Most High wasn't just going to come and fix everything. No, you put yourself in that situation, you got to deal with the consequences of it. That's what the whole point of the law was. He gave you law, and then he gave you a blessing and a curse. So if you go against the Most High, you now have to reap the repercussions of the curse. The Most High just wasn't going to always step in because that's what he wanted to do. No, Israel had to suffer the consequences. So this is what we're reading about, consequences of actions. That's how we learn as a people. So you learn as a child growing up, right? You stick your finger in the fire, you're going to get burnt. I can tell you don't put your finger in the fire. Don't put your finger in the fire. And then all of a sudden, you go to put your hand in the fire. I can go grab it back and say, no, don't do that. But then the next day, how are you going to learn? Because you're still going to be inquisitive. So now when you put your hand in that fire and you get burnt, oh, you wanted to learn the hard way. You're going to learn the hard way. Now your doggone finger, your skin is doggone peeled off your doggone finger and you crying and it's burning. You're going to sit with that for about a good week and a half until it heals. And it's going to be a remembrance to you. Don't do that again, right? So that's why how the Most High operates. The Most High doesn't want us to just be a robotic. He wants us to think, reason about the things that's presented before us. And that's in every day. Anything and everything, we have to reason properly on righteous judgment to choose the will of the Most High. All right, so let's go back to Joshua. Go ahead.
I'm still a bit confused. So what you're saying that when they made that mistake of making these people their slaves,
we didn't even get there yet. We didn't even get there yet.
All right, go ahead.
We didn't even get there yet, right?
You said they were supposed to destroy the people and said that they made a leave, but the people want to be enslaved. You said so.
Right, but let's finish reading, and it's going to clear it up for you.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So now, going back to Joshua chapter 9, and we at verse 7. And the men of Israel said unto the Hivites, peradventure ye dwell among us, and how shall we make a league with you? And they said unto Joshua, we are thy servants. And Joshua said unto them, who are ye, and from whence come ye? Right? So now they're coming and willingly giving themselves up as a people to serve the children of Israel. However, they were a people that was already near and dear to them, but Joshua didn't know. But he's asking them, right? And they said in verse 9, and they said unto him, from a very far country thy servants are come because of the name of the Lord thy God. For we have heard the fame of him and all that he did in Egypt, right? So they now lied and said that they were from a very far country, right? They were right near, but they lied to Joshua. But Joshua and the men that was amongst Joshua didn't know, right? Now, watch this. And all that he did to the kings of the Amorites that were beyond Jordan. Say again. To the two kings, Salak, Tawada. And all that he did to the two kings of the Amorites that were beyond Jordan, to Sihon, king of Heshbon, and to Og, king of Bashan, which was at Ashtoreth. Wherefore our elders and all the inhabitants of our countries spake to us, them being the quote unquote ambassadors, saying, take victuals with you for the journey and go to meet them and say unto them, we are your servants. Therefore, now make ye a league with us, right? Now let us join hand in hand. And you had that happen throughout different time periods, different empires, where a nation understood the power and the prominence of another nation and said, listen, we're going to come and be your servants, right? And when you did that, you were almost like an ally, even though you had to pay tribute. And that dominant nation protected you, right? Or if that dominant nation needed to go to war, you had to also come and fight with them, because now you've just made yourself a servant and a tributary unto this dominant empire or people of nation, right? So I'm gonna read it again. Wherefore our elders and all the inhabitants of our country spake to us, saying, take victuals with you for the journey and go to meet them and say unto them, we are your servants. Therefore now make ye a league with us. This our bread we took hot for our provisions out of our houses on the day we came forth to go unto you. But now, behold, it is dry and it is moldy. So again, it's a lie, because we read up earlier that they already had taken moldy bread, but they're trying to front as if their journey was so far and so long that by the time they left where they were at, and by the time they got to Gilgal where Joshua and the men were, the bread got moldy. Right now, we know sometimes if you make, natural bread and you go on for a long time and not refrigerated, it can go for 3 to 5 days, without it getting moldy or without drying out. That's kind of what now they are now giving the impression that this bread has gone that period of time before it arrived when they met Joshua, right? It says in verse 13, and these bottles of wine which were filled were new, and behold, they be rent. And these our garments and our shoes are become old by reason of the very long journey, right? So they're really trying to lay it on, right? I got a hole in my jacket just from carrying and bringing the stuff here, and all my clothes. We need new clothes. That's how long we've come to come and be a servant, right? Verse 14, and the men took of their victuals and asked not counsel of the mouth of the Lord, right? So this is the key. That's why this is now important as far as for why the Most High didn't do what he could have done, because They were supposed to come and ask the Most High. Go to Numbers, the 27th chapter. Numbers, the 27th chapter. And I'm going to read from verse 18. Numbers 27 and 18. Y'all come on if you can read that. Read it.
Numbers 20.
Okay.
Numbers 27, verse 18. And the Lord said unto Moses, take thee Joshua, the son of Nun, a man in whom is the Spirit, and lay thine hand upon him, and set him before Eleazar the priest, and before all the congregation, and give him a charge in their sight.
Right. So now the Most High is speaking to Moses, setting up Joshua, who's supposed to be next in line. Right. So he's giving him the order of how everything is supposed to be operated. Choose Eleazar and set him priest in his sight and give him charge over everything. Keep reading.
And thou shalt put some of thine honor upon him, that all the congregation of the children of Israel may be obedient.
Meaning, let them know that he's next up in line after you, Moses. Give your honor upon him. Read.
And he shall stand before Eleazar the priest,
who
shall ask counsel for him after the judgment of Urim before the Lord.
Right. So now Eleazar is his go-between, is his conduit. So now when Joshua and the men want to find out something, they got to go to Eleazar the priest so they can ask counsel from the Most High. Read.
At his word shall they go out, and at his word they shall come in, both he and all the children of Israel with him, even all the congregation.
Right. So now when you make decisions, you got to make mighty decisions. You got to come and check with me. Right. You're going to go to Eleazar, the priest, and Eleazar is going to give you confirmation if you should go here, if you should do this, if you should do that, right? But now, if we jump back to Joshua chapter 9 and we read again verse 14 to 15, it says, and the men took of their victuals because they had, fronted like they had old moldy bread. They gave them food, and it says, and asked not counsel of the mouth of the Most High, right? So now when they didn't come to the Most High for direction, the Most High said, okay, I'm going to leave you over to your own decisions now, right? Because certain things you got to learn. You were supposed to come to me. I told y'all this is how it got to operate. Verse 15, and Joshua made peace with them and made a league with them to let them alive. And the princes, let them live, Salah, and let them live. And the princes of the congregation swear unto them, right? So few months back, we went into, somebody did a class on when you make when you swear or you make an oath, it's binding. Once you make that oath, you can't go back on it, right? The Most High was not going to allow man to go and make an oath and then break it to say, okay, now, you know what? Y'all was stupid. Y'all didn't know what y'all was doing. I'm going to fix that and go and now do what he was supposed to do. No, the nation ain't going to learn. So now here it is. We learning that when you make a decision like that, it's binding. It lasts. It's forever. When the Most High said he was going to make a covenant with the children of Israel, it's binding. It's forever, right? So you can't now just easily just go back on your word, because then your word don't mean anything anymore, right? That's how we used to say in the hood, your word is your bind. It binds. It now is intact. You can't take it away, right? So the Lord wasn't going to intervene because man had now just done this. And he gave us laws on oaths and swearing that it has to now be fulfilled. So here, when you read what they did, they didn't come to the Most High. They made that. And once they made that oath, that's it.
Yeah, we can't make any kind of oath like that now.
Right. I mean, not even that. That's why Yahushua told us in the New Testament, let your yea be yea and your nay be nay, right? To kind of remove man from all way. And we as a people still do it. We still forswear on the Most High. I swear to God. I swear on my mama. I swear on my kids. I swear on my dad this, my dad. We do that just randomly without any thought about the consequences of your actions. And sometimes we look at that as validation, right? So we know if someone says that, oh, that gotta mean he ain't lying. But he could be lying. But now you just swore on something. You swore on God. You swore on your dead spirits, your dead mother's spirit, your dead child's spirit, and now you're using it to get over on somebody. You've now just brought your own curse upon you when you do that. And most of us have done it ignorantly, right? That's why the Lord, he says he winks at times at our sin. He winks at those things that we did ignorantly. But now he commanded all men to now keep these commandments, paraphrasing. So that's the difference now. The Most High is now letting us learn the actions and causes of our way. He could intervene, but he won't. I'm going to give you another example. Go to the Apocrypha. 2 Maccabees. 2 Maccabees, chapter 5. Second Maccabees chapter 5, and I'm going to read from verse 15. So this is 2 Maccabees chapter 5, verse 15, page 144. It says, "Yet was he not content with this, but presumed to go into the most holy temple of all the world." Talking about our temple, right? So this is now the Greek king is going to tell you, Antiochus, who was now meant to go into our most holy temple that was only meant for the Levites. And not only just any Levite, you had to have been one of the sons of Aaron to conduct certain different objectives in the temple. It says, "Yet was he not content with this, but presumed to go into the most holy temple of all the world. Menelaus, that traitor to the laws and to his own country, being his guide." So we had a wicked Israelite, wicked man of Levi, who was now being his guide, his tour guide, to lead him into this temple. Verse 16, "And taking the holy vessels with polluted hands and with profane hands, pulling down the things that were dedicated by other kings to the augmentation and glory and honor of the place, he gave them away." So here it is, Menelaus is now allowing this king of the Greeks to come in and with polluted hand take the treasures out of the temple that had been dedicated by our previous kings. Verse 17, now here's the key. It says, "And so haughty was Antiochus in mind that he considered not that the Lord was angry for a while for the sins of them that dwelt in the city, and therefore his eye was not upon the place." So now Antiochus, he being prideful, he ignorant, he don't realize that he is only able to come into the holy temple and do what he was doing because Israel was wrapped in sins. So the Most High allowed him to go into there. He's not supposed to go in there. The Most High would have never allowed him to go in there. How do we know? Let's read the next verse. Verse 18. "For had they had not been formerly wrapped in many sins, this man, as soon as he had come, had forthwith been scourged and put back from his presumption, as Heliodorus was, when Seleucus the king sent to view the treasury." So the Most High would have stopped him from coming into the most holy temple if Israel was on point, right? If they had said, "No, Heliodorus, you can't come in here," and they was following everything to the T as far as for how they're going about keeping the Most High's order, the Most High would have put Antiochus back like he put Heliodorus back, right? But it was because of the sins, the decisions, the choices of the people where the Most High allowed it, right? Why would the Most High allow it? Verse 19, "Nevertheless, God did not choose the people for the place's sake, but the place for the people's sake. And therefore the place itself that was partaker with them of the adversity that happened to the nation did afterward communicate in the benefits sent from the Lord. And it was forsaken in the wrath of the Almighty. So again, the great Lord being reconciled, it was set up with all glory. So the Most High chooses how he wants to intervene, when he wants to intervene. If Israel is following, listening to this counsel and following his word, the Most High will come out there and he'll fight for you. He'll defend you. He'll do this. But when Israel chooses not to follow the commandment of the Most High or the counsel of the Most High will step back and say, well, okay, this is what you want to do. This is your choice. Let's see what you're going to get out of it, right? That's how this works with the Most High. He can choose when he wants to intervene, but when we sin or we don't come and ask him, he's going to give us over to our own ruin, right? Because he had already told us in the law that they were supposed to be utterly destroyed. He had already told us in commandments and different experiences when we went against the other nations what to do. Now, one would say, you know what? That's cool, but they came subtle. They came and lied to him or them at the time. So you really can't blame them. Yes, we can, because the Most High said that we are supposed to ask counsel of him. I set this man Eleazar up amongst you. You come and you ask counsel of me through him. He's the seer. He's the prophet. He's the man of God. And he will instruct you on if you should go or if you should not, if you should make a covenant, if you should do this, right? So that's how now the Lord didn't do anything because they went on their own decision. Is that clear, Gabar?
Yes, that makes it a little bit clear. Okay, that's why so he gave them over so that they could be, to their statement. But they should have asked them first, you said.
Right.
They should have asked counsel, or should they make a league with these cats or not?
Right.
But since they didn't ask them, they just went on and made the league, believing these guys told us, lied to them, that Lord let them go with it.
Right. That's like if you have a child and you've now, been a counselor to your child and they come and you communicate about different things. But then they don't come to you for this one thing, right? And they make an agreement with something else, right? And it's binding. It's in a contract. You don't want to got a credit card, right? But they said, it's no interest, no nothing. And, why you ain't come to me? I know better than you when it comes to a situation like this. Listen, I thought it was up front. I thought they was being, honest with me. But you don't know that that's only for 30 days, man. 30 days at last. After 30 days, they tagging on interest. They doing this, they doing that. And you, my son or daughter, have entered into an agreement with them. You signed on the line. I can't do nothing. That was you. Now you got to deal with that. Now you best make sure that you pay your bills or you do such and such because that's your two agreement. Your word is your bond. You have to fulfill it. Now, if the child was like 12 years old, Esau has laws where you can't enter any agreements with kids who are under a certain age. That you can now reverse because they have that law. But when you are 22, 23, over 18 years old, not even 20, over 18 years old, and they come to you and you enter that agreement, you on your own now. You agreed to that, right? That's why I used to always, when I was in college, I used to walk the hall. There used to be credit card tables lined up. They was offering out credit cards like it was going out of style. Why? Because they knew at that point we was now held accountable for our actions in entering into these agreements. All right, so let's go back to Joshua 9. Joshua 9. 1 second.
15. We're going to 15.
Come. So now verse 15, it says, and Joshua made peace with them and made a league with them to let them live. And the princes of the congregation swear unto them. And it came to pass at the end of 3 days, after they had made a league with them, that they had heard that they were their neighbors and that they dwelt among them. And the children of Israel journeyed and came unto their cities on the 3rd day, right? So now through, different dealings, they heard that these Gibeonites wasn't really from a very far off country. They was only 3 days within that region away from them and that they were their neighbors and some of them dwelt among them. So they said, hold on, man. What the hell? right? So now we're going to have a little chat with them, right? It says, now their cities were Gibeon and Chipera and Barath and Kirth Jerem. Verse 18, and the children of Israel smote them not, because the princes of the congregation had sworn unto them by the Lord God of Israel. And all the congregation murmured against the princes. So it is like, listen, some of us was ready to go and smite and kill them and get them out because that's what the Most High said. But our chief leaders, our elders at the time, the princes, the chief men, made that agreement. So now they couldn't do it. So when it says they started murmuring, it was like, what? Yo, what the heck is wrong with these brothers, man? Why would they do something like that? You would have thought that they were. So now it's a little chitter-chatter and a little disgruntled and everything else. People are mad at the decision that these princes had just made. Verse 19. But all the princes said unto all the congregation, we have sworn unto them by the Lord God of Israel. Now, therefore, we may not touch them. So they swore and made this agreement with them and swore in the Most High's name. So we can't go out there and kill them. We can't do nothing, right? We can now, as far as for touching harm or putting harm upon them and utterly destroying their men, their women, their children, we can't do that because we made an agreement. We swore. Verse 20, this we will do to them. We will even let them live, lest wrath be upon us because of the oath which we swear unto them. So they realize, again, when it comes to oaths and covenants, you can't go back on that oath or that covenant. So they said we have to let them live. If we go and kill one hair on them, the curse is going to come upon us, right? So this now agreement was supposed to stand forever. Israel wasn't supposed to go and touch and smite the Gibeonites. The only person who can go and smite the Gibeonites was who? Who can go and smite the Gibeonites? Any other nation. Any other nation could go and smite the children of the Gibeonites because they didn't make the agreement. We did. So the children of Israel now were refrained from going at war against the Gibeonites themselves because of this oath. And if you did, then now the curse will come upon you, right? Go to the book of 2 Samuel. Watch this. Go to the book of 2 Samuel. This is way in the future now. 2 Samuel chapter 21. Second Samuel chapter 21. And I'm going to read from verse 1 all the way down to 9. 2 Samuel 21, verses 1 down to 9. So it says, then there was a famine in the days of David 3 years, year after year. And David inquired of the Lord, and the Lord answered, it is for Saul and for his bloody house, because he slew the Gibeonites, right? So now here it is, during David's time, David's going through a famine, and he's like, damn, it's 3 year after year. Like, what's going on, Most High? Why are we going through this dearth where we have no food? And the Most High says it's because of what Saul did and his household. They went in his zeal and slew these Gibeonites. Well, we just read here in Joshua, the 9th chapter, that we had an oath that we could not slay them. But now because Saul did it, now Israel is going through a famine. Verse 2. And the king called the Gibeonites and said unto them, now the Gibeonites were not of the children of Israel, but of the remnant of the Amorites. And the children of Israel had sworn unto them. And Saul sought to slay them in his zeal to the children of Israel and Judah. So it gives you the background. It lets you know that these Gibeonites are really a remnant or a portion of the Amorites, whom the Most High said initially that we were supposed to slay or kill. These are the ones that made that agreement. When Saul was in his throne, he, zealous, went and killed them. So now guess what? That falls upon us as a nation or people. We just read what happened with Achor when he took of the accursed thing. The curse fell upon all Israel. So when Saul did that, the Most High brought a famine upon us as a people. So one would think and say, well, dang, that's kind of messed up. These are Hamitic nations. The Most High don't care about them. The Bible tells you the Lord said that they are like a drop that falleth from a bucket. In Apocrypha, he said that they are like spit. So why does he care so much if Saul goes and kills these Gibeonites? He doesn't. It's the oath that was made with them, right? Now, once you make that oath, you can't break it. He broke it, and now the curse fell. Verse 3, wherefore David said unto the Gibeonites, what shall I do for you? And wherewith shall I make the atonement that we may bless the inheritance of the Lord? So David now is trying to make it right. He was like, what do I need to do to make this right, to give you a recompense so I can make an atonement to the Most High for what our brother Saul had done to your people, which he never should have done. Verse 4, and the Gibeonites said unto him, we will have no silver nor gold of Saul, nor of his house, neither for us shalt thou kill any man in Israel. And he said, what ye shall say, that will I do for you. So they're like, look, we don't want none of his gold. We don't want none of his silver. Matter of fact, I don't want you just going out there randomly killing some Israelite because of what he did, right? We don't want that. So then David's like, all right, cool. Well, then what is it that you want? And we will comply. Verse 5, and they answered the king, the man that consumed us and that devised against us that we should be destroyed from remaining in any of the coasts of Israel. Let 7 men of his sons be delivered unto us, and we will hang them up unto the Lord in Gibeah of Saul, whom the Lord did choose. And the king said, I will give them. So they said, listen, we want someone of his lineage, of his posterity, because this thing happened from out of his house. And we were going to hang him up as a testimony for what he had done to break that covenant that we had from ages ago, right? Verse 7, it says, but the king spared Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, because of the Lord's oath that was between them, between David and Jonathan, the son of Saul. So check that out. So David now, Jonathan was like his brother, right? You know how they say brother from another mother? In this case, brother from another father too. But they acted as if they was brothers. So they had entered into their own oath, their own agreement. David was going to look after Jonathan and those that was. So David said, you know what? I'm going to listen to what they're saying, but I can't break my own oath. I'm not going to give him Jonathan. I'm going to give him 7 of his other sons, right? It says, because of the Lord's oath that was between them, between David and Jonathan, the son of Saul. But the king took the 2 sons of Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah, whom she bare unto Saul, Armoni and Mephibosheth, and the 5 sons of Michal, the daughter of Saul, whom she brought up for Adriel, the son of Barzillai, and Meholiath, and the Maholiathite, right? So he took 7 other sons, left Jonathan's son and his posterity alone because of his oath, and gave them to them, right? Verse 9, and he delivered them into the hands of the Gibeonites, and they hanged them in the hill before the Lord, and they fell all 7 together, and were put to death in the days of the harvest, in the first days, in the beginning of the barley harvest. So when is the barley harvest? When is the barley harvest? Say again? Around the time of the Passover, right? So now it's giving you a time of year. It didn't say what month, or it just says in the beginning of the barley harvest. So the barley harvest is synonymous with the Passover. Passover is in the first month of our year in the springtime, around March, April. So this is when this was taking place, right? To make an atonement for the children of Israel because Saul did this, right? So again, these Gibeonites are heathens. Why does the Most High care so much? Not he don't care about them. He cares about the oath, our decisions and the agreements and the covenants. That's why we are still his chosen people, right? That's why we still today, look how we broke the agreement. We sinned, not the Most High, but the Most High is still keeping his word. The Most High, if he was like man, he would have done what? He would have said, oh, so y'all broke the agreement? Fine, I go find me another people. I go get with another nation. I started with you, but I'm going to go get with another. That's what the world thinks, that the Most High, because of sin, because Israel transgressed the covenant, that now he's not dealing with them anymore. That's not true, right? That's why it says in Romans chapter 12, Romans chapter 11, verse 1. I say then, have God cast away his people? Why? Why is Paul saying this? Because Israel had transgressed the Most High's commandment, broke the covenant, and was cast into every captivity under the sun. So you would think that what? God is not dealing with his people no more. Look how many captivities they've been in. They haven't risen up as a great people since the time of Solomon, right? And some of the kings. But holistically together, they haven't been since Solomon was king, right? I say then, have God cast away his people? God forbid. For I also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. God have not cast away his people, which he foreknew. What ye not what the scripture saith of Elias, how he maketh intercession to God against Israel, saying, and it goes into how the Most High now is sending different prophets and different mediators to now stand as an in-between to bring us back to the Lord, right? So he didn't break the covenant, right? It's still standing. So we couldn't break the covenant, still standing to the day that Saul did that, and then the curse fell upon the children of Israel, all right? So now,
And then that covenant break.
Say again?
And then that covenant is broken.
What's that?
That covenant with them is just broken.
Right. So now let's go back to Joshua chapter 9. And I stopped at verse 20. So I'm going to read verse 20 again. It says, this we will do to them. We will even let them live, lest wrath be upon us, or the curse be upon us, like what we just read in the book of Samuel, because the oath which we swear unto them. And the princes said unto them, let them live, but let them be hewers of wood and drawers of water unto all the congregation, as the princes had promised them, right? So they were now meant to be slaves. That's what synonymous with being a hewer of wood and a drawer of water. They were supposed to be, a servant to go and chop down the wood, bring things in, go and fetch the water and bring it unto you like a servant or a slave does. So just like we read a lot of times in the book of Judges, the 5th chapter and the 11th verse, which is now talking about Israel, right? Let me go there real quick. Judges 5 and 11. So in Judges 5 and 11, it says, they that are delivered from the noise of archers in the places of drawing water, right? So the breakdown of that first precept, they that are of Israel, that are delivered, meaning saved from the noise of archers. The noise of archers is talking about the missiles, the ICBM missiles, the nuclear weapons. When the bombs are let loose, the Most High is going to go and deliver the children of Israel from the four corners of the earth. It says from the places of drawing water, meaning places of your slavery or your captivity where you have now been scattered. The Lord is going to deliver you before that destruction happens, right? So when you now ever see drawing water, hewer of wood, you know it's synonymous with servitude, slavery, captivity, just like we put upon these Gibeonites, who are really a remnant of the Amorites during the time of Joshua. Now they are going to be in servitude. All right. So now let's go back to Joshua chapter 9. I read 21 again. It says, and the princes said unto them, let them live, but let them be for hewers of wood and drawers of water unto all the congregation. And the princes had promised, as the princes had promised them. So now they were going to be that way for everybody, right? It says, and Joshua called for them, and he spake unto them, saying, wherefore have ye beguiled us, saying, we are very far from you, when ye dwell among us? How come y'all lied to us like that? How come y'all treated us that way? We thought that y'all was really from a very far. We ain't talking about 3 days journey or a half day. We're talking about from like a week or 2 weeks at a minimum. And y'all right here dwelling amongst us. How you lie to us like that? Verse 23. Now therefore ye are cursed, and there shall none of you be free from being bondmen and hewers of wood and drawers of water for the house of my power. So because of that lie, the Most High now had it where these men entered into that oath that they now were going to be slaves for them unto the nation of Israel, right? And that's why we read in 2 Samuel that as time went on, Israel had to remember, we can't touch them. We can't do nothing against them. If you can't do something, then it's going to be a curse. It's the same thing when Joshua and them sacked Jericho. And then Joshua made that oath. It says, any man who rebuilds Jericho is going to be a curse unto him. And then you go fast forward into the future, you have one of our kings who went to go rebuild Jericho. And the curse fell upon him where he lost his sons. Right? His sons had to die because of that oath, that covenant that was made. Right? And that was years ago, hundreds of years prior to that event happening. So we had to remember and keep records. That had to be being told to your children. Yeah, you see them people over here, they nothing, but you can't do nothing to them. They're going to be your slaves, they're going to be your servants, but you cannot ever, ever raise up a sword unto them. If you raise up a sword to kill any one of them, it's going to be a curse. Why we can't do that? Because what the princes did during Joshua's time. Why did they do that? Because they lied to them. So always be mindful. You got to be careful when you're making decisions. You just can't be rash with your decision making. Go and ask counsel. Go and read the scripture. Go and pray on certain things before you just willy-nilly just enter in certain things. This is now how wisdom applies. This is how I learn from testimonies in the scriptures. That's why it says in Isaiah 8:20, to the law and to the testimony, right? If they speak not according to this word, it's because there is no light in them. So when we go into the testimonies of the Bible, they teach us. So now for us today, we are learning what happened during Joshua's time. We're learning what happened during David's time. We're learning what happened during this man's time because it's now teaching us on how we rationalize and how we think. All right. So now let's go back to Joshua 9, and we're at 24 now. It says, and they answered Joshua and said, because it was certainly told thy servants, how did the Lord thy God commanded his servant Moses to give you all the land and to destroy all the inhabitants of the land from before you. Therefore, we were sore afraid of all our lives because of you and have done this thing. So they were smart. No fault to the Gibeonites, because they said, we know what the Most High was doing starting back from Moses, and it was already told to all of us. So what we going to do? We're going to sit here and just die? Because that's what y'all doing. Y'all killing everybody. So we came subtile to save our lives. It wasn't their main problem because they're heathen. It was our fault for not doing the fact checking, for not going to the Lord and asking. So they gave an answer. Listen, man, we ain't want to die. We got no problem doing what you say and being servants. Verse 25. And now, behold, we are in thine hand, as it seemeth good and right unto thee to do unto us. Do. And so did he unto them, and delivered them out of the hand of the children of Israel, that they slew them not, right? Because of this oath. So they gave themselves up and said, all right, whatever you seem right to do with us, do with us. But we couldn't kill them. Verse 27, and Joshua made them that day hewers of wood and drawers of water for the congregation and for the altar of the Lord, even unto this day, in the place which he should choose. So now when it says, when you read the scriptures, and it says, even unto this day, right? It's not talking about all the time, like right now, 2020. Sometimes it is, some cases it's not, right? Because sometimes they'll talk about the stones are still standing even unto this day, right? Sometimes those things are there, but then other cases have been destroyed. But when you read and understand how the Most High has comprised the writings, because some of the Bible was destroyed during the different times of the captivity, right? 586 BC, when the Babylonians came, they destroyed the record. So Ezra and them had to rewrite it. So during the time of Ezra's time, when he was writing the scriptures, that oath was still standing unto that day, right? It was, things were still in place, right? So now we couldn't go and destroy them. Hence why what happened during David and their time. All right. So that concludes the 9th chapter of the book of Joshua. It's about 12 o'clock. We're going to pause here for 30 minutes, take a break, get some quick bite to eat lawfully, no cooking, kindling of fire. And we'll come back and do the second half of the Sabbath service. All right. Shalom.